And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Lakers insider for Lakers Daily. And today on the show, I am joined here on this fine Monday evening, unless you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. There's probably not very fine. Or a Bengals fan for that matter, who, they're about to fall to 0-3 as well. Raj, two teams that you care deeply, deeply about, right? The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Absolutely. I watched my first 5 minutes of football recently. It was not this week, but last week. It was some team blew the lead. Oh, the Seattle, I think it was the Seahawks blew the lead or something like that at the end of a
They're
game.
undefeated, so they wouldn't have blown the lead.
Oh, not Seattle. Okay. The Eagles, excuse me. The Eagles blew the 5 minutes left. They blew a lead.
Oh, yeah. Atlanta. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that was interesting. That was fun. I don't like how
interesting.
I like how teams hold the ball with 7 minutes left. Not really a fan of I don't really like that idea of it, but it was a fun ending. So yeah, my first bit of football this season was a week ago for the final.
I'm proud of you, Raj. I'm proud of you. Next step is getting you a fantasy football team. You'd probably be really good at fantasy football because everybody has that first year fantasy football luck. You get that rookie luck and then it gets you interested in it, from then on. It's kind of like golf, right? Like you go out and you go to the range and you hit a few balls and it just goes well enough that you're like, I think I can do this. And then you go to your second time and you're like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I think I played fantasy basketball one time, and there's enough real basketball that I really don't need fantasy basketball. I could not get into it, so I don't really understand.
It warps your brain, right? You start convincing yourself that these players who put up these empty calories are better players because they offer you value in fantasy, whereas they don't offer their teams any value in terms of winning.
Exactly. I just can't watch basketball that way, where I think when I was playing, I was like, no, I need 10 rebounds. So I started this guy who's 100 times worse than the player he's benching him for because he needs to win the rebound battle against his opponent. I just don't see sports that way. Another universe that I'm just not into yet. Maybe in the future.
Today in the show, we're going to be talking about bigs. Speaking of those guys who rebound and do those things, we're going to be talking about bigs. I texted you, Raj, today asking if you wanted to come on the show.
Yes.
And you said, yeah. And I was like, you know what? What do you want to talk about? Before, normally you hop on here and you just kind of go wherever I tell you the show is going to go. I gave you the opportunity here to plant your flag on an island and take the show and steer it however you want. And you told me you watched Harry Giles minutes over the weekend. Harry Giles Lakers minutes over the weekend, which made me a little concerned, a little sad, especially considering you just told me how you just checked out football for the first time. And you were like, yeah, Harry, is it Harry Giles? Is it Harry? It's not Harry.
Yes.
No, Harry Lyles is the singer, right? Yeah. So we're going to talk about a trend that we've noticed in how the Lakers have really kind of struggled to find a productive and consistent backup big for Anthony Davis. Raj says he has a theory, so we're going to talk about that. In terms of air quotes news, we found out recently that the Lakers are not going to be holding their players only minicamp that LeBron and AD usually put on. There's an explanation for it. There's a logical explanation for it, but it just kind of continues in the direction that the rest of this summer has gone, in that nobody seems to give a fuck. So we're going to go ahead and hit on that later in the show. But Raj, the Harry Giles thing, what time of day are we talking about here? What I don't know if it's worse if it's later when nobody else is doing anything. It would be if it was like, hey, Raj, do you want to go out tonight? And you're like, come on, we have work to do.
Well, you know how rabbit holes work. Well, I don't really know how exactly rabbit holes actually work, but you go down like rabbit holes. I saw Shams put out, the Harry Giles got signed by the Hornets, and he used the Lakers jersey within that, and I was like, oh, Harry Giles was a Laker this year. Let me go look up how many games he played. And I looked, and he played 7 games. He played 4 for
Mhm.
South Bay, actually. And I want to shout out Harry Giles. More people should do this. Like, I did like a welcome to LA Harry Giles post of like his plays, and he shared it. And I like really appreciated that. Like, I feel like more players of kind of his stature should be, sharing stuff like that on social media. But in any case, he played 4 games in South Bay, 7 with the big team. Anthony, I also sent you the lineup data that I went up and looked of Harry Giles'
Which is
minutes.
like
Oh,
insane. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna put up on. I'll put it here on the show. It's crazy.
well, like, because before I'll go look, like, go watch a player's film, I'll go look at the lineups he kind of played in, right? And so I saw that, a lot of them were garbage time minutes. So again, that's how you get down a Harry Giles rabbit hole. I think I forgot if it was Saturday or Sunday, I don't remember, but it was more in the evening for sure. It was not like 3 a.m. Eyes on NBA.com or anything like that. So there was no weird
A Saturday
time.
evening. I don't know if I don't know which is worse. I don't know which is worse, which is better. Like most other people, especially your age, right? You're not even 30 yet. What are you doing looking at
Well,
Harry?
I went to the beach on Saturday, and then I came back, and like then I went and did this, which is like a very enjoyable Saturday for me. It was perfect. Beach weather was perfect. Newport Beach was amazing. The weather was like 71 degrees. Water was
See,
nice.
that's where I'm jealous. That's where you're gonna make me jealous.
More people
And
should
that
be at the beach. I feel like we take this for granted, honestly. Like I was there and there was not a lot of people there, which I was surprised at. But yeah, I came home from the beach, watched some Harry Giles Lakers film, and called it a wonderful Saturday. Saturday spent.
I like to think that like you're getting like DMs that you're ignoring. It's like Raj, come out. No can do, lady. I am busy. No, but I was for one thing, you mentioned how like people take the beach for granted. They definitely
Yes.
do. And I say that as somebody who did and moved away and
Hmm.
desperately misses the beach. Aaron, doesn't understand the concept of like swimming in the ocean. I personally love swimming in the ocean. I
Yes.
love bodyboarding. I love body surfing. I tried surfing a couple times, had a good time doing that.
Okay.
Just love being in that water. It is like good for the soul. And
Right.
and you're 100% right. And actually, this is like some of the best beach weather that you're going to get down there.
Hmm.
71 degrees, like you're going to have that ocean breeze. You can hang there all day, like just
Yeah. I,
yeah.
I didn't I didn't know we've gotten to this point in technology, but like if you check the weather app, it said 71 but feels like 76. I didn't know like that's a new update I guess in the on the weather technology, but it said 71 but feels like 76. I was like feels like 76. That's a very nice day for the beach. So that kind of swayed my decision to go. But no, I love going in
Feels
the
like it's
water.
been on the iPhone for a good 5 years.
Okay.
See, but here's the thing though.
I've never seen that.
I spend like, all right. So when I open my phone, normally I go straight to Twitter, unless like I open it for a notification. I
Right.
probably open the weather app more often than any other app other than Twitter.
Cuz
Like
your
that's
weather
an
is
actual
more
thing. I'm just like
variable, right?
old. Like it's just like as you get older, you start caring
Really?
more about like comfort and the weather and the role that the weather plays in your comfort. Because I like being outside, but out here it's like you mentioned the feels like it'll say like, oh, it's 82 degrees outside. And then with the humidity, it's like it feels like 125 degrees outside because Texas humidity is a completely different beast. But no, everybody should hit the beach, especially this time of year. All the way up until I used to go to the beach all the way through to my birthday, which like I have a late October birthday. And
Okay.
I would start going to the beach back when, I was young enough and had enough free time to be able to do this kind of a thing. I would start going to the beach in like April and then stop going to the beach and swimming in the water in like late October. Like
How
it
close
was just
how close did you live from the beach? Like how long was like your drive to
like
the beach?
30 minutes. It depending on the time of day that you went, you know. So
Okay.
if you
Uh,
wait for the traffic to clear out and you head down there at like 9:30 or 10, you know, you
yeah.
get there about 10:30 or 11.
Okay.
Anyway, enough beach talk. What's your theory, Raj, on why the Lakers can't? I have one, but I'm going to let you go first. Why can't the Lakers find a decent backup big for Anthony Davis?
So again, this all started honestly with the Harry Giles thing because I think looking at him and
Here's
he
the lineup data, by the way.
yeah, the lineup lineup data is not really relevant to this part. I just think that was funny that all his minutes came. Like those look like South Bay lineup minutes, don't they?
Yeah.
Like doesn't it?
Hmm.
It does. Other than uh
Yeah, I mean you have Maxwell
Max.
Lewis, you have Mays, S Mays, who I don't know who that is. You have this guy Hood Hood.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. That was unnecessary. But yeah, when you go and look up kind of Harry Giles' situation, right? A guy we signed on a two-way and really didn't give an opportunity. And what was the sell on Harry Giles, right? Anytime the Lakers get a player like this, every person just like me and all the sickos go and look up, like, oh, Harry Giles, highly touted prospect, right? Coming out of
Yeah.
college. But his like main thing was he was an offensive center, right? Like he's a guy that leaned towards like, hey, he has some offensive skills. He has some handles. He is supposed to have a jump shot at least coming out or something. A little bit
Mhm.
of post moves and all that stuff. I think the Lakers have focused way too heavily at trying to fill this offensive need at the five position, and it's been extremely frustrating, obviously for fans and everyone to like continually cycle through. And I think if you just look at it, and part of this also in our Slack, I shared, Derek Lively. I think like a picture of Derek Lively, and it was kind of shocking that he was 5 picks away, right?
Yeah.
And I
From
use
who?
a little different language about that. I'm like, it was a missed opportunity that we had,
Five
maybe.
picks away from who? Who the Lakers take? That
Oh,
yeah.
Jalen Hood, Jalen Hood Shafino, 5 picks
Oh,
away.
yeah, that's
Again,
right. That's
miss
right.
miss opportunity there. I lose more sleep over Derek Lively, honestly, Anthony, than a Jaime Hawkes, than a Brandon Pajemski. I just think like that's a player that again, he wasn't out our draft range, so you never really know what could happen. But you look at him, right? You look at the skill set. Why was he successful? And why was he so touted and why did he play so well? I think like unless you're a generational offensive big, I think like your center has like a few different skill sets they have to have. You have to be able to protect
Mhm.
the rim, right? You have to move a little bit on your feet, but you need to rebound, right? Those are the two real main ones, and you need to screen hard. I listened to your episode with Fast Break Breakfast. I'm blanking on his name.
Keith.
Keith,
Mhm.
yes, Keith. Keith was talking about Zach Edey, right? And he mentioned like how you guys were talking about his ability to score in the post. And that's like the Sunday on top, right? But like the actual ice cream is that dude is a hard screen center and he rebounds, right? Like that's the main thing with Zach Edey. Yeah, he can score in the post. And I think if you look around the league, those are the type of bigs that do really well. Those are the type of bigs that also get paid. And the type of bigs that can shoot and defend, like that doesn't exist at the minimum. Or even the MLE, right? We ran through
Yeah.
Thomas Bryant, we ran through Mo Bamba. Marcus Gasol was the one that was supposed to fit that, but he kind of aged out by that time. We've tried it with Christian Wood. If people weren't here a few episodes ago, you know how I feel about Christian Wood. Like we keep running through these centers. Jackson Hayes is the one like where I feel like he kind of fits, and that's why I kind of propose more minutes for Jackson Hayes, even with this like basketball kind of IQ and stuff. I think that's the type of position. But if you keep just rolling through these centers that like you're trying to find if they can shoot and do all the other stuff that centers do, I just think you're not gonna find like those centers. Those centers make 20-30 million. The other guy was Hartenstein, right, with the Knicks, and he just got paid.
Yeah.
And he has a little bit of offensive gain, right? That's why he gets paid what he does. I just think like teams are investing in these type of centers. You look at Cleveland with Jared Allen, right, who they paid a bajillion dollars to. And then other teams like Denver has a generational, center there where Jokic can kind of fill both lines. But I just think if you're looking for centers that can help, like we went through, and Look, I like Colin Castleton a lot, but he's another center that really leans toward the offensive end. He's a guy who's supposed to be able to shoot. He's supposed to be able to have offensive post moves. And at the center position, I want the least amount of like variables, right? And like shooting has too much variance into it. I just like at that position, they need very specific skill sets. That's why I think a Derek Lively thrived. All he had to do was screen hard, roll and catch lobs from Luka and Kyrie, and protect the rim. And like it's easier said than done. I just think like those players are out there, those athletes. Those are the type of guys I want to be taking chances on two ways with, not like Koloko might be that as well. I could see that in the range, but I just feel like we should have been going more towards that build instead of continually trying to find players that can like space the floor and do all the other stuff that centers do. Those players don't exist at the minimum the contracts that we're giving out. So that's my theory, Anthony. Do you vibe with that? Like I feel like the Lakers have been really trying to get this spacing center ever since Marc Gasol, and like they've tried to do that at the bottom of the roster, and that's to me just a impossible fill at that position.
Yeah, so I think generally speaking, Rob slants a little too heavily in favor of offense. You know, you look at like the vast majority of players that the Lakers have acquired over the course of Rob's tenure have all slanted offense, right? Like, and what's funny, Raj, is that the Lakers actually had success. The last like backup big that we actually trusted, well, Mark was a little different, but even Mark was like a former defensive player of the year,
Right.
but like the big that they had the most, the backup big that they had the most success with was actually Dwight, right? And he was a big physical, set hard screens. If you're coming in the lane, you're going to pay for it one way or the other.
Right.
Rebound, do all of those things. JaVale, you know, Lakers Nation is pointing out that JaVale was there too. JaVale's, I think he's a little closer to the offensive side of things there. JaVale's defense is a lot more like, I'm going to get on my trampoline. I'm going to give you one big jump. And if I block the shot with that big jump, great. If I don't, I'm going to be completely out of position and I don't have a second effort in me. Dwight was, and remember the circumstances that they got Dwight, he was on his way out of the league, right? Like everybody was so sick of Dwight Howard that he, you know, that like the Lakers had a shot at him on the minimum. And I think like, I don't know if you listen to the show, and I hope you guys have checked it out or will check it out, but the show that I did with Sam, and how spoiled Warriors and Lakers ownership have been in the roles that they've been, right? So you have Joe Lacob take over. He has Steph at the apex or heading towards the apex of his powers, and they go on this dynastic run. And I think it leads Joe Lacob to believe that that's a lot easier than it actually is. And I think Jeannie, right? She takes over for Jim. LeBron just decides he wants to make Space Jam 2. He shows up and you know, really made Jeannie's job a lot easier than it would have been otherwise. And then they win the championship. And I think like it especially becomes like that feels a lot easier than it actually is for everybody else. So I kind of think that like the Dwight Howard thing is a weird example of this too, where they got Dwight at the minimum because of those very unique circumstances. Because JaVale, I don't even think was on the minimum. I think JaVale was actually a little bit more than the minimum.
A little bit more.
He was. And like, you know, to your point about like what the Lakers are trying to do on the minimum, I don't think the minimum market is where you're going to get a playable backup big in the NBA now, given how much more valuable the league has figured out bigs are. You used to be able to find a pretty good big at the minimum because the league thought that they weren't as valuable. And then we kind of realized actually basketball size does matter in basketball. We should probably, you know, have, you know, playable giant human beings on your roster. And you know, so the Lakers, like I think the Dwight thing put them into this false sense of security that they were all you need to expend to find a backup big is going to be the minimum. And you got kind of lucky for a little bit with Mark. He got sick. So And I don't was Mark a minimum signing? He might have
He
been.
was. He
I
was.
think he
Yeah.
was.
Mark was a minimum.
Um, but then after that, like I guess they used more than the minimum on Montrezl Harrell, but like to your point originally,
Another
right?
offensive big.
Offensive big. The Christian Wood thing, Jackson Hayes, my large adult son, whose name I'm forgetting, which is
Mo
really
Bamba.
embarrassing. Seeing is he was
Oh, Damian Jones. You're talking about Damian Jones?
Damian Jones, Mo Bamba, like
Mo Bamba.
all of
Yeah.
these bigs. It's
Thomas
been these
Bryant.
offense first bigs, and I think that's a great point, Raj. Is like actually what I want from my backup is just Thomas Bryant. Great, great pull there as well from Revived. I think you need to to really kind of narrow down that role so that whenever Anthony Davis sits, you're not worried that everything is going to fall apart on defense.
Right. And then again, if you go look around the league at the bigs that can space the floor and rebound and block, like how much does Porzingis make? Like almost 30 plus
Yeah,
$30 million a year, right? Wemby's obviously an alien. He's gonna make all that. Like the player to me that is this divide. And again, this goes to I don't, Anthony, you can answer this better than me. How much the Lakers were really interested in Jonas Valanciunas this year? He came up in the Dave McMenamin, article about a player that LeBron would take less money for. But I think again, Jonas is a kind of misunderstanding of what's important for a center, right? And Jonas, whenever he's brought up the added benefit from him is, oh, he can shoot. Jonas takes like 0.1 threes a game. The benefit for Jonas on offense, and again, which is heralded, is his post up ability. And he is a good post up player. But my center being able to like post up and score is really just not as important for me. Like when I have LeBron and AD and all these other offensive centric players, like I need that guy to do everything else, which is why Vando is so important, right? And with Dwight, like yes, he was a minimum signing. That was also a Hall of Famer who was a minimum for reasons that were not basketball, right? A lot of the reasons that Dwight was on a minimum were not basketball reasons. And again, Dwight's a guy that does not need the basketball. I think that's important, and I think the league is kind of trending that way. But if you want to go to a spacing big, and you got to invest a lot, you got to go trade for that guy, and he makes a ton of money, or you got to go pay a lot for that guy. And the Lakers obviously are not willing to do that, so they keep sliding in these minimum players. And maybe the most important position, because luckily AD did not get hurt last year, but there was definitely a lot of miles on him in terms of what he had to hold on his shoulders defensively. Like that position is extremely important. And the idea that we're putting that player, and that player's right now Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood, and Christian Coloco, who barely play, who did not play a year ago, if I have that correctly. We're putting that in the hands of maybe our most important place, which is like if AD goes down, what happens? Last year we brought in Harry Giles, and we still went small. I went and rewatched some of those games where he was healthy. We went small. We went Rui at the 5. We went LeBron at the 5. We didn't trust this guy. So, like, why are we bringing him on a two-way? There's some communication gap maybe between the coaches and the GM. But, yeah, I just think I think this position needed a little bit more focus and intention. And instead, it's like, hey, let's see if this guy who is, again, I hope Coloco works out. I really do. It's just, let's see if this guy who's like recovering just to play basketball can come and be our like most important
yeah.
insurance player. Like that's insane. That's an insane position to take, and that's kind of where we're walking into the season. I think this position has been flipped and rotated so many times because we have a misunderstanding of what's needed at this position.
It's also, by the way, what happens when you have a singular final decision maker, for your basketball ops, right? Because again, like we can go through the year the Lakers won the championship, that 1920 season, right? You had this like almost bevy of capable defenders. And ever since then, your defensive talent on the roster has just been like eroding very steadily, right? It's been, and the biggest acquisition that Rob Pelinka made was Russell Westbrook, right? Somebody who was like
Offensive centric.
always had the skills to defend, but like chose not to, right? And uh like Kendrick Nunn, we mentioned Montrezl Harrell earlier, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just been like, you know, the types of players that the Lakers, like, hell, remember the year where they had like all former all-stars, right? And they were all like former bucket getters too, you know. It was just like, you know, and
Carmelo Anthony. I mean, it's just the list goes
yeah,
on.
like
Yeah.
when people when I talk about like the importance of diversity in a front office or in a workplace, right? It's not just for equality's sake, because societally it is important for everybody to have the same opportunities, but for that workplace, this is the more important part. The Lakers' lack of diversity really hurts them because there are no other voices that are like, there's no back and forth. It's just Jeannie says something and everybody's like, Jeannie, incredible point. Amazing point. Rob says something. Rob, you did it again, you son of a bitch. Like, it's just like every single like person in the Lakers front office right now, right, is like, you know, mostly white, mostly like comes from very affluent families, not too much experience in the NBA. And it's like, where's going to be like, where's the back and forth, right? Where's the productive conversation that, gets in Rob's ear and he's like, hey man, we need to play like a little defense. Anthony Davis can't be the entirety of the defense.
Right.
Like poor AD. You watch when Anthony Davis goes to the bench, he like almost can't watch because like I'm telling you guys, go to a Laker game and watch Anthony Davis when he goes to the bench. And like, he just kind of like, it like hurts him physically to watch the Lakers try to defend when he isn't out there on the court. And it's because Rob Pelinka has basically decided that there's only one side of the basketball court.
Right. And I think that's part of then another name that I was just thinking of is like Wenyen Gabriel, right? And I remember Wenyen Gabriel, like he stood out like a sore thumb, Anthony, because all he did was play hard and rebound, right? And then there were games I remember watching. I don't remember if we were watching this live. I'm like, why is Wenyen Gabriel taking threes? And like I feel like they're telling him take threes because they want to find that spacing big.
Yeah.
But that's the other part of this as well. Like when you have Anthony Davis, and obviously LeBron's defense in the regular season, that's a kind of issue that you have to iron out. But like I think AD gives you a lot of like routes you can go with a defense, right? Do you want to be super big? You can do that. Do you want to have more like defense in your backcourt? And I think there's a fair conversation where this same center conversation, Anthony, you can have with the backcourt. Right. I think there's a fair conversation there as well. Like, hey, why is every guard we signed an off the bounce shooter who's undersized? Like, I think that's also a fair question, right? Lonnie Walker, Kendrick Nunn, Gabe Vincent, all these dudes are just Gabe Vincent also was supposed to be a defensive player. Kendrick Nunn was supposed to be a defensive player, but these are undersized guards anyway.
Nunn was never going to be a defensive one. Vincent has a chance, but he's just so small. He is so small.
Eric Spoelstra magic that he does, but like those two are like strong defenders in Miami. Something happens, I guess, when you leave. Is it Dade County? I believe it is. Something happens to I guess people when they leave that place. But yeah, AD gives you a huge margin for error, which why I think I think we were asking for this a little bit more Jackson Hayes next to AD, like have some kind of defensive identity instead of just AD has to be 6 places at once. And that really like tears him down playoff when it becomes for playoff time. So that's where I'm at, Anthony, with the center spot here. We keep trying this offensive center thing, which is why I'm so passionate about the Christian Wood experiment. This is another guy that they're hoping is an offensive kind of engine. It's like you have engines already. Like a car doesn't need 3 engines. Like it's got let's build the rest of the car. Like we got the engine. We got the engine.
Well, that's the frustrating thing because everybody keeps on saying how man, if the Lakers trade D'Angelo Russell, where are they going to get their offense from? And it's like that's half the freaking roster. What are we talking about? How much do you need? You have LeBron who is going to demand and dominate the ball when it really matters. You have Austin Reeves, who's a very, very, very capable offensive, whether it's we'll call him a combo guard. Sure. They're going to start using Anthony Davis as this offensive hub, apparently. So we'll see what that kind of looks like. You have Rui Hachimura, who makes his bread on the offensive
Offense,
side of the
yeah.
ball too. It's like I think they're fine. Like I think that because even when I'm literally writing for Lakers Daily, my positional previews, right, and I'm again making the case for D'Angelo Russell to come off of the bench, and like I know the pushback is going to be like, but man, what are they going to do without D'Angelo Russell's offensive creativity with that starting group? I'm like, the one with LeBron in it. Like, how are they going to find offense with LeBron James and Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura and Anthony Davis? Where could the scoring possibly come from? And like, I just think, and I think like, I don't know if this is necessarily to be fair to Rob Pelinka, because I just don't care to be, but like, if it, like, the entire sport has moved so thoroughly in the direction of offense, right? Even in the way that it's been refereed over the years has moved in favor of inflating scoring. We finally saw a bit of a pushback to that last year, and I hope that it continues in that direction. But like I just for what you're talking about here in finding a center and the Lakers' continued failed attempts at doing it. Like this actually gets to something that I was talking about on yesterday's show, and how like our job is to like try to explain these things. And I think, Raj, you do a very good job here of finding a trend, trying to explain the trend, and giving a logical explanation for it, so that maybe, just maybe, if we see the right kind of center like slip in there, you'll see the tangible difference and impact that they would make.
Right, and I think, again, this is not to pick on him, but, Colin Castleton to me kind of represents a lot of this too, right? Again, I know people aren't watching South Bay games and G League games, but, like, Colin Castleton averaged a good amount. I think it was, like, 18 and 10 or whatever, right? Like, I think he did average a good amount, but he just did not have the physicality, and, like, what the Lakers need is so far from, like, what Colin Castleton is that, like, when you have to kind of bridge that gap, and I'm not saying he can't get there, it's just last year the Lakers really needed backup center help. Remember, like, Colin Castleton after summer league, like, it was like, oh man, this guy could be our backup center, right? And then you like watch him play. Well, he just does not have the physicality of it. And I'm gonna bring this full circle.
Yeah.
Like when I watch Harry Giles, and Harry Giles isn't some brilliant athlete or something like that, but like I watch him in South Bay, I'm like, this is a guy that's kind of NBA ready, has an NBA body, averaged 11 and 6, I believe, in our G League games, had like a block a game or something like that. He's a guy that you should throw out there for physicality. And we just didn't even give him a chance. And now he goes to Charlotte. We'll see what he does. It's just, I feel like this like leaning into offense, which I totally understand, right? If you can have both, like if you can have your cake and eat it too, you have an incredible player at the minimum. You have a player that can shoot threes, block shots, protect the rim, and rebound. But that's just like you're trying to hit the lottery instead of like, I don't know what other lottery games there are, but more high percentage
Well, it's like the
games.
difference between playing blackjack and then going
Okay.
and putting all your money on a number on roulette,
Yeah, exactly.
But like, I would also like, again, and I think this is a point that needs to be made. When the Lakers were getting ready to draft somebody in the last draft, they were focused on centers. And they were hoping to essentially, and a first rounder makes a little bit more than the veterans minimum. And so, they would hope to develop one. But again, there, Raj, like Derek Lively is kind of the outlier there. And that, like, and we kind of, it's like after Draymond Green was drafted and we saw that archetype of player have the success that he had, every single tweener from that point forward has been like, well, he has some Draymond Green to him.
Sure.
Like every single draft analyst with a player who's a little too small to be center and can't shoot is like, Draymond. Yeah, you see the Draymond thing there. And I think the Lively thing is what we're seeing, like the Lakers approach to the draft, where it's like, if they draft a center and they make his role narrow enough, he can have some success. That's a lot to ask.
Also, like the part of this that's frustrating for me is that like the Lakers didn't need a Derek Lively, right? Like they have Anthony freaking Davis. Like the Mavs don't have an AD. We have
Yeah.
AD. Like go get a functional center, and a guy that I think of as like a Jericho Sims, right, with the Knicks, who stepped in nicely for Mitchell Robertson, who I think the news came out today. He's still going to be out till like December
Yeah.
with his injury. But in any case, like the Knicks, Jericho Sims came in. And again, just a high flying dude who can run and dunk. But Anthony, do you remember what the sell was on Derek Lively when he was drafted? It was that he had a 3-point shot. Like he was draining threes in his workout video, right?
Yeah.
None of that mattered. None of that mattered
No.
because they have Luka and Kyrie Irving, who's going to create every shot. Like Derek Lively does not need to step out there and take threes. Like I'm super passionate about this because I feel like we centralize offense in these situations. But like what a big needs to do, he needs to defend, he needs to block shot, he needs to rebound. Like I think that's a task that not a lot, like that's obviously easier said than done. I don't even need this big to switch. Like one of my favorite bigs, I watch the Clippers a ton, is Zubac, right? And Zubac gets killed because he can't switch. Like, yes, if you let Zubac play one-on-one with Luka Doncic, he's gonna get cooked. If Ty Lue lets Luka go one-on-one with Zoo, he's going to get cooked, as 90% of bigs do. But Zoo is like incredible at timing. He's incredible at like knowing exactly where to play his drop coverage. And he did that because he got a bajillion reps doing that. And he's obviously a smart center and was able to pick that up. But like he's a guy that the Clippers, there's like a gap to me, Anthony, in like how Ty Lue values Zoo versus their front office. The front office doesn't play any games about Zoo. He gets an extension every time early. He gets paid. He just got like an $18-19 million deal. And I think bigs like that you can find. It's just like, imagine it like for us, I feel like we had Zoo and I feel like we wanted Zoo to have a mid-range jump shot. Zoo was like taking mid-range jumpers on the Lakers. And he doesn't take jumpers on the Clippers. Never.
Hilarious. They traded him for a stretch big.
Yes.
God,
yeah. Don't want to. I totally forgot that was the result of that. I totally left my mind.
We just like ignored. Mike Muscala was acquired to shoot threes, and I don't think ever made a three for the Lakers. Like,
I don't remember one.
I don't remember a single three that Mike Muscala made. Somehow still in the league. So, or I think he is.
He
was last year. I don't know if he still is now.
All
right, really quickly before we move on to the minicamp topic. A little bit of news, a little bit of personal news. I teased it on my Twitter account today. This Basketball Passport podcast that I'm going to be doing with Lee Ellis. It'll be every Sunday night and every Thursday night. We're going to get together and, oh, there you go, Steven. Muscala just retired. Zoo outlasted him. It was better than him the entire time that they were both in the league.
Oh, that's painful. That's painful.
So Lee Ellis, you've heard him here on the show. You've seen him. You've watched him with the starters, which became No Dunks Inc. He obviously left that project to pursue this like crazy endeavor, traveling the world, playing pickup games all around the world, playing in some incredible like backdrops and countries and getting these great stories. So one day after Lee and I were finished recording this show, I asked him how everything was going, and he said it's going great. Hey, I want to ask you about something. What do you think about doing a podcast together about my traveling passion? I was like, cool. That sounds like a lot of fun. I've been looking for a national NBA show to do anyway. I just wanted to find one that was a little bit more unique than any other podcast. Like it's just you check the time, there's a new podcast out there. And so, I told him, well, I don't know how well we could sell just a travel, basketball show. What if we talked about the NBA once a week or however many times a week? And then also did this travel thing where we told your stories and the stories that you do a great job of telling. He was like, perfect, great. Ran it by my bosses. They said, fantastic. And here we now stand on the precipice of launching this pod. So I hope you guys check it out. By the time you guys are listening to this in the morning, the RSS feed should be up. And the YouTube page is already up. So you can go and find it, youtube.com/@basketballpassport. And Lee and I are going to be live there on Sunday. Lee will be on the show on Thursday to just talk basketball and then also further preview that pod.
So that's can't wait to listen to that. And, Lee has found something that like I think a lot of people who have played found is there is no like there's no better feeling in the world than like playing pickup basketball. Like at least in my opinion, like my life
I
is
miss it.
so much better when you like even on a Sunday. I don't care who's out there. Like if you can just go and play a game where obviously all other nine
Mike
people.
Muscala might be out there now. He's
Uh,
retired. He
yeah,
might be
but
out there just playing some pickup.
there's too many Mike Muscala mentions on this podcast. That's like way too many. Like the the bar of like Mike Muscala mentions has been passed. But like when you play with at least 9 other people who have some semblance of knowledge of how to play, pickup, it's a beautiful thing. There's just no amount of money can buy like that experience. So yeah, it'll be exciting to listen to you and Lee and his travels and experiences.
Great dude. Lovely. I'm really looking forward to this project. Let's go ahead and hit on this news that we got today, or at least that I saw today. Dan Wojcicki broke it, saying that the Lakers, we're now at the point where there's not enough time between now and media day. I'm recording this on the 23rd. You'll be listening to this in the morning on the 24th. The next day after that, you have Rob Pelinka speaking to the media. You have media day right around the corner. There's just, they ran out of time. There is no time for a minicamp here. And like, if you want to just be fully 100% pragmatic, the explanation here is that LeBron and AD played in the Olympics. LeBron normally puts this little mini camp on, and it would make some sense for him to get just that little bit of extra rest to get ready for the season and stuff like that. I don't necessarily agree with that take. What was your response when you saw that there was not going to be a players only mini camp this summer?
Yeah, that made me really sad, honestly. Like, it's something I actually look forward to every year. The little tidbits coming out. I
Yeah.
think Austin had an awesome story about, he was very nervous the first time he caught a pass from LeBron in the mini camp with no cameras, and he nailed the three, and he felt like that was part of the road to getting LeBron's trust. Like, there's a lot of really cool stories that come out from that. My first thought, Anthony, and maybe this is a sad thought, was does he just not want like Bronny around this team that long, like by themselves? Like I just like the first time this is Bronny's first experience with LeBron. Like I would think that would be a really cool father son like moment of, hey, like we're going to Vegas, we're going to practice with the whole team. You'll get to know the team before the coaches come in and kind of bark out
It'd be
orders.
funny if this was like a dad move where he's like, "Nah, Bronny, you don't need to be there for a players only event. You don't need to know what goes down on those player only events.
Yeah,
Let's
that
just go
was
ahead and get to training camp." It's just
this is not your welcome to the NBA moment, not yet. Like this is
the guys, especially if you do in Vegas, it'd be funny if he was like, you know what? All right, we'll do a players only thing, but it's in like Hemet. It's like nothing is happening. Like we're going the Lakers trips, like Hawaii, fucking Vegas.
it's like
They're on
Joshua
these like
Tree.
great places. He's like, all right, this year's camp. It's in the Vatican. We're gonna keep it really, really.
We're gonna build a hoop here. Just one jib. We all
We
sleep.
are going to keep things very, very pure for this thing. You do not need to know what a an unwatched players only trip
man.
would be like. We're just going to keep it fully Disney. Oh man. Did you connect the dots at all to like, because I mean I think there's obviously you can connect any two dots, right, with a straight line. That's a mathematical law, but like, are you connecting the dots between not getting anything done in terms of personnel? JJ hire was kind of jumbled too, took forever to put together the coaching staff. Like this summer, like, I'm sorry, every single update that we've gotten so far this summer has led me to believe that like nobody seems all that interested or passionate about the season.
Yeah.
And
I
this is like a perfect like cherry on that Sunday.
I I just can't get there. I don't think LeBron approaches seasons that way. Like it would be very sad if in end of September, if LeBron is already looking at this team and goes, "Yeah, we don't got it. I don't need 3 days in Vegas." Like I'm really hoping that's not what it is because I've seen that's the sentiment online of, yeah, LeBron doesn't believe in this team. Like okay, maybe there's some like LeBron's a very smart guy. Like I'm sure he looks at this and
Mhm.
goes, "We're not the title favorites," but I don't think this is a team that LeBron's already giving up on end of September. I'm sure he has his reasons why he's not doing it. Maybe like just at the age, he doesn't want to be in Vegas that long. We talked about the Bronny situation. This is also a team that's bringing back 14 to 15 guys. Not a lot of new faces that he gets to know. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure he'll get to know Dalton when he gets to, and Bronny obviously he knows. So like Dalton's the really only guy, and I don't think they're gonna have a whole mini camp to introduce Dalton Connect. As much as I like Dalton and like would have loved Dalton to get the opportunity to practice with LeBron and AD and all that without coaches around. Yeah, he's the only new player. I mean, we have our two-way. I mean, even the two-way guys we're bringing back from
Yeah.
last year. That's
It's
not
so
a lot
funny.
of new
Like they
faces.
ripped apart championship teams, and they were just like, you know what? That team that like got eliminated in the first round last year, we need to run that back. Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily make the full leap there to like
Yeah,
LeBron doesn't care about this team. You know, he only has so many years left in the NBA, and I just can't imagine somebody who has been this great for this long would ever approach a season with apathy.
right.
Um So I don't think that's it. I do think the rest thing is probably kind of real.
Mhm.
It was a long summer. You know that those Olympics were very competitive, and LeBron played a very central role. Anthony Davis played a very. You could make the argument they were the two best players on Team USA this year.
Yeah,
And so like maybe that plays a bit of a role here, but what I will say though is that like I just LeBron does know that this team isn't good enough.
sure.
I think like everybody always talks about how the bubble championship was the fluke. I think the Western Conference Finals run was the fluke, way more so than the bubble run was, because
Mm.
that Western Conference Finals, like let's look back at the teams that they actually played there, right? Um, First round they played the Warriors, right?
Memphis first round.
It went Memphis Warriors. Okay, so
Mhm.
first round you play Memphis, and like Keith and I talked about on that episode, they were broken down. Didn't have Steven Adams. He would have really mattered. Didn't have their other big, who had blown his Achilles as well.
Brandon Clark.
Brandon
Brandon
Clark.
Clark.
Thank you. So they were very thin up front, and then Jaw also kind of tweaked his wrist over the course of that thing. The Lakers took care of business. They handled that one. It wasn't as competitive as a 6-game series would maybe indicate. And then the Warriors won, that was right before that team really kind of fell off of a cliff, right? That was kind of like the final push as the Warriors kind of fell further and further into mediocrity. And then when the Lakers finally played uh, a legitimate and whole Western Conference team, they got swept by the Denver Nuggets. And you want to call it the closest sweep ever or whatever,
11
that's fine.
points was the difference in the series.
Still,
11.
still calling it a sweep, and then the next year, uh, the Lakers played that same team without having the chance to play two broken teams before it, and got eliminated in the first round again. So, or got eliminated by that team in short order again. So, like, I don't know if I'm LeBron and I've been on championship teams before, and I've been in like, I've been at the pinnacle of the sport for as long as I've been in it, and not only that, also played for organizations that have their shit together. And if I'm
Sure.
LeBron, I'm like, you know what, man, I'm not giving you any extra credit this year. Like I'll show up for training camp. I'm going to take my approach to the sport very seriously. He's always going to do that. But also, I wouldn't blame. I'm not saying this is what he's doing, but I wouldn't hold it against LeBron if he was basically like, why should I go the extra mile for a front office that won't go the mile? Like what? Like they aren't
Sure.
meeting me halfway. Why am I bridging that gap for a front office that clearly doesn't have its shit together?
Yeah. So I'm gonna quickly, because I'm I hear this not just from you, but I'm push a little bit back. Like I think you could have easily flipped both of those two things. Like Memphis was a team that won 50 whatever 4 games. They were the 2 seed that year. Yeah, they didn't have Steven Adams, they didn't have Brendan Clark. And I heard Keith, bring that up on your guys' pod. I don't think anyone was stopping AD that series. He was absolutely incredible. I don't think anyone, and like those two coming back doesn't do anything about Dylan Brooks unable to guard LeBron at all. And also Jaws defensive like limitations were not going away with either's. Obviously, it would have helped having Adams, but I don't think. And then there's the defending champs in the next round. Like as much as they imploded after that, those are the defending champs. That's still Steph Curry. That's still a team that has never lost in the Western Conference. Like that's a real stat. That was their first loss in the Western Conference as a playoff, I believe, since 20, whenever their first title was. That was their first loss like in the Western Conference. And so like I look at those a little bit more fondly. In the Denver series, we have different feelings about that, of course, in terms of how that in terms of how that went. So that and I don't think LeBron ever did the mini camp, Anthony, for like I believe the mini camp was for the players. Like it was a place where the players bonded together, right? LeBron really believes, you hear anyone talk about it. I forgot who was speaking about. I think it was point guard for the Heat. I forgot who it was, but he was talking about how LeBron's very into dinners and like team, like doing things as a team, as a unit, right? A lot of that 2020 kind of videos that come out is the whole team going to dinner together, the whole team going to the movies together, all that type of stuff. I think LeBron's really about team and camaraderie and building that chemistry. I don't think it was ever about like helping the front office or doing something extra because it helps it gives an extra boost to like the people
But it does
calling
help
the shot.
those. Like he might not be doing it because it helps him. And you're right. Like that's the part that I think the people who were saying, who were just giving me the practical reasons of why it made sense to not do it this year, were kind of ignoring, is how like, no, actually that team bonding does help, right? Like that.
100%.
Like we've all the team that my senior year in high school. It was actually kind of funny. My senior class, I was the class of '04 at Esperanza, and my class there was like not highly touted, wasn't supposed to have any guys who would go on and play in college. It wasn't anything like that. But like for whatever reason, the chemistry, like we kind of rallied around that. Like we were just like these like underdogs who like really rallied around it. And then actually the next class underneath, after us, a class of '05, was like really highly touted. They did have these guys who were like being looked at by colleges and stuff. And that balance where we were the old ones and we kind of told the team how it was going to go, like it led to this kind of really cool chemistry. And we had a really successful year. One league, lost in like the quarter or semifinals to freaking Darren Collison's Etowanda. And like, we had this really great year though. And like the chemistry was palpable. It mattered from day one of conditioning in the spring all the way through to the final game there. And like those are the things that you build in these mini camps. Those are the things that like, when you look back on a season that went in a really good way, it starts that first time that the team gets together, and especially specifically the first time, or if that first time takes place without the coaches present there, so that everybody kind of gets the lay of the land together. That's what the Lakers are going to be missing by not having this mini camp. And I think the people who were just like writing this off as like, oh, whatever, it's fine. Like, you just tell me you didn't play sports before. Just go, like, just say it. Like you can go ahead and say it.
Right. And I don't really buy, Anthony, the like LeBron needed more rest. Like LeBron's not going to play in preseason. Like he doesn't play in preseason anyway. It's not like he's ramping up to play then. And I highly doubt there's someone like pushing LeBron to go way past whatever limit he wants to at his own camp. So like I doubt it's, again, I don't know exactly, but I just not buying the rest thing. In my opinion, it's more this is a team that's bringing everybody back. And so like there's no real need to introduce yourself to anyone else because this is a team that's been together for a while. That's kind of
But I
my,
think it's even more important that like you get that
yeah,
reset. Darvin's not there anymore. Like it should be the shot in the arm that everybody gets together and like goes out and gets drunk in Vegas over the fact that they don't have to deal with Darvin anymore. You know,
well,
that's the kind of thing that like it would be the breath of fresh air that allows everybody to reset, get back on the same page, and go into the season with just that little extra nudge of momentum. And for a team that is lacking in terms of overall talent, because I don't think they have enough like talent on this team, these like intangible things become even more important. You know, it's one thing for the dream team to not like each other. And that's not to say that they definitely didn't like each other, but they all kind of went their separate ways during their Olympic experience. And they got together and beat the shit out of Angola or whoever, and then went off in their separate ways and then got together again and beat the shit out of Spain. And then got, you know, you can do that kind of a thing if you're better than everybody that you're playing. But like when you look at that, the Redeem team, for example, those guys were together every step of the way. And that's when it was like super, you know, you could see how much more special that was. And that really came into importance when they played Spain and that game got close in the gold medal game. And everybody did understand, okay, we're all deferring to Kobe here because he's freaking Kobe. You know, like those are the things that you figure out in those little mini camps, in those like group sessions, you know, away from the sport and away from the coaches. Like those are the things that really like, they matter so much. And you know, that's the part. I'm not saying that the season is doomed because they didn't have this mini camp, but it was just like yet another step along this path of like, okay, so like we aren't supposed to care, right? Like that's how this season's gonna go. Like you're telling us we aren't supposed to care.
So I don't believe it 100% means LeBron, you know, isn't into this team. It definitely isn't a huge vote of confidence. Like it's definitely not
Yeah.
the other way, right? Like I'm seeing clips. The Indiana Pacers are kind of having their players are having their own little camp, right? And they're having videos that come out from it. That's a team that's like, hey, we just made the conference finals. Like we're juiced. Like we have a lot of kind of momentum riding on this, and that we can kind of live off of and breathe off of. And you could tell with their post, Miles Turner, another guy that I wanted. But anyway, Miles Turner is kind of posting and like about the rookies that are kind of playing well in that camp. Anthony, I just realized like the worst outcome of this was like LeBron made a group chat and said, you know, mini camp, who's in? And it's like him and Bronny were like the only ones in, and there were just not enough people to like
that's
create a mini camp. Yeah, that
like
would be the worst.
Like LeBron sent the invites. He's like question mark because nobody responded.
Right. Yeah. Some D'Lo or Austin put like a little golf emoji, like yeah, we're on the golf course.
LeBron's like, no, D'Lo, we know you know how to use your phone. You can reply.
Right. Yeah.
On that note, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Fun episode today. We have another set of fun episodes for the rest of this week. We have Lee on Thursday. We have actually Jovan and I were texting back and forth today. I think he'll be doing the show with me Friday, which maybe allows me to take a different day off. We'll see. But, you know, until then, you know, please do go out and find Basketball Passport on your RSS feeds and on YouTube. And let's get some momentum behind that. And then, no, Rosh, thank you very much for coming on. A great idea for the great stuff with the Bigs thing. That was great. That was awesome.
One of those things that bother me for sure.
And for something to bother you, like it has to be truly shit.
I think I said it in a nice way though. Like I think I said it in a nice way. Like let's take a different route here. We've gone down this road.
Nice is clearly what sells in sports media. Like, you know, it's those guys who just like, yeah, you know what? Let's be nice to each other. All right, that is going to do it, though. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please do hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Please do hit that like button here on YouTube. And then if you guys are listening to this in the morning, please do subscribe to the show everywhere that you get your podcasts, preferably here on Odyssey. And until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Ross Chapalu. Have a great rest of your evening. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you tomorrow.